Hello everyone! Today ScorcherToys@anymoon.com is doing something a little bit different. I get asked a lot about which display stands I use, and so today we are diving deep into the GokinPlus Archi stands, which range in price from about 31 US dollars all the way up to 55, and there are all sorts of accessories you can add to that, which will increase the price, but also will increase your fun factor. The Archi stand doesn't come in retail packaging. Instead, you'll get your individual parts, which will be protected with plastic film that you will remove. You're gonna get little feet that you can attach to the bottom, and you can jump right in and start assembling. After you've removed the film from both sides of all parts, and all parts do have film on both sides, so make sure you go ahead and do that, or else you might get a little bit of a more opaque finish on one side, or it won't reflect light the same way. Then you're gonna put your little bubble feet on the bottom of the base, and you're gonna grab your bolts and nuts and washers, and you're gonna go ahead and you're gonna tighten everything up like so. And now there is an option kit that's available as one of the many extra parts online. So if you don't want to have to guess and work with your own tools, you could just go ahead and buy the option set and it'll have everything you need right there. Bro, didn't you already review this display stand once? No. What you're thinking about is the Chaotic Yeti stand, which is on the left here. Yeti was nice enough to send me a sample once upon a time. I did a review of it and I friggin' loved it, which is kind of a spoiler for where we're going now with this GokinPlus display stand. This is very much inspired by this. Yeti stopped producing them, left a void. GokinPlus took a look at that product and said, hey, we can do something very similar with some of our own little tweaks and make it work just as successful. And that's what they've done. And full disclosure, they sent me the samples you're seeing here today to prove that they had accomplished it. So we're gonna take it through the paces and see if they did. A couple differences right off the bat. This stand, the GokinPlus, is a little bit bigger on the bottom, a little sturdier base, not quite as thick, but it's definitely hefty. The arms look to be a little bit thicker than they were on the Yeti stand. And Yeti stand had done some laser etching around the contact points. The GokinPlus stand does not do the laser etching. There's also a rubber washer involved with the Yeti stand. No rubber washer here. The end result is a cleaner display stand for the GokinPlus. The question obviously is, okay, but is it gonna hold up as well? And I think the answer that GokinPlus found there was it's not the rubber washer or the laser etching. It's always the pressure of the nut and the bolt, because even if this gets loose, the rubber washer and the laser etching aren't going to stop that arm from swinging. So you really just have to tighten it up. Obviously, you can't over tighten. You don't want to break anything. But as long as things are tight, they're going to hold together here just as well as they did there. And that's been my experience so far. There's only one thing that I regret that is missing from the Yeti stand to the GokinPlus stand, and that is these pre-drilled holes, which were really cool for doing things like plugging in these display stands, these cheaper versions that are out there. Not just these, but also sometimes Bandai includes these like arms that come up and support accessories, which Yeti stand had you covered on that. You don't have that option yet on anything from GokinPlus, and it's something I hope that they would include in future versions. So one of the things that is always a little difficult with stands like this is making sure you have the adapters you need for whatever displays you want. And my advice to you would be buy lots of adapters. This one's gonna work for Bandai toys. There are lots of different adapters out there. It's much better to have them and not absolutely need them than to be setting up a display and be like, oh, now I gotta go order that other adapter. So definitely go crazy on adapter purchases. It'll prove worthwhile in the long run if you're switching up your displays. So the ability to customize these display stands is awesome, but you do have a few basic flavors to begin with, so you're not too overwhelmed by the fact that you can really do whatever you want. I mentioned that this is the long stand, this would be the short stand, this is the double stand, and you can imagine two toys, one on either side here, or you could get an extension piece and maybe you have Batroid toys fighting each other, right? So that's an option. And then if you really want to go nuts with lots and lots of parts, this would be an example of the max stand, which stands for maximum functionality, not max genius or something like that. So let's start putting some toys on here and I'll demonstrate what we can do. Now, Yamato and Arcadia VF1 toys don't come with a display stand, so if you've been looking to get them off their landing gear for a while, this might be the opportunity you were looking for. This is the short version of the display stand. That's the short arm on there. There's the Yamato display stand adapter. Now, the only downside, if you're just going for flying poses here, is you have two pivot points that can go up and down for you, but there's no left or right banking if these are the only parts you're buying. Now, you do have a lot of options, and we'll be getting into that later, for other parts you could buy to make the banking possible. But if you just got this display stand and this adapter, that's all you can do. So if that's what you're looking for, you might be better off using something like a Flight Pose or Caliber Wings router style display stand. The downside to those being it'll never lock in as securely as this toy is, right? So if someone bangs your display cabinet, this is gonna stay solid, no worries. On a router style, the toy might slide off. So that's your potential downside here. Now, this display stand adapter is connecting to the launch arm adapter that comes with these toys. So all of that is as stable as the manufacturer intended to do. So you don't, again, have that worry that the errant bump is gonna cause your expensive toy to potentially slide down, bang into other toys, that sort of thing. The base here is about 18 centimeters wide. The overall weight of the whole stand is about 300 grams, which is going to be plenty hefty to keep even your larger, heavier toys stable when they're up and elevated. One thing this can't solve for you is that Bandai sometimes included really ugly adapters to attach to their stand. You're still locked in with those, but otherwise, this, you could see if you had a short and a tall, you can get a nice flying together pose going on in your display stand. But the real fun happens when we start adding some more arms. And this is the double stand, and there is a lot more going on here. First of all, you can see there are a couple screw holes that I'm not using right here. So if you didn't want to have one plane higher than the other, you can bring it into the middle zone, get them both about squared off. Or you could, of course, have this side higher than that side. So those options are there. Now we also have a 90-degree bend piece before we get to our attachment piece. And what that allows us to do is we could actually bank these toys either with each other, away from each other, anything like that. And we still have the twist here. So we can go up and down and banking once you include the 90-degree piece. Now, if you're thinking, oh, I gotta get a double stand for that, you don't. Remember, you can buy these pieces individually as well with one of the single stands. So that is definitely something to consider. Now, these are both on here. If you just had one at a time, maybe you have some weight differences. But once they're both on, very sturdy. Again, I can move this thing around and I'm not worried about my toys getting knocked off. Everything is handling perfectly. I could put this on display. I could walk away. I'm not afraid of what I'm gonna come back to. So very high marks there. So now we're gradually moving towards the max stand with the idea of customization. So I've still got the double stand in the middle here, but then I said, hey, why don't I make my Batroids fight each other? I got the short stand arm and the long stand arm, added them to this double stand, and now I've got Max and Miria dueling against each other, which I love. And you've probably seen it on my website a few times now, because this to me is just such a quintessential awesome battle. I love to have it going on. And now I could put it in my display case if I've got the room, all on one base, which is really cool. If you want to have some other things going on, that's where all these other parts come in, right? So you could have a 90-degree elbow. If I wanted to have Max turn towards me or Miria toward me, I could do that, and then I can angle them either this way or that way and really get things dynamic. The problem with most display stands is that you have something like this, and you can line up several toys together to create sort of a wing, but it's not dynamic, and that is where the Archi Pro Series Max stand comes into play. You get the adapters you need and the parts you need to actually have two toys either flying together to look really cool, or pitted against each other like I've got here with the Draken and the VF31J Kai. Now, these are heavy toys, and this is all pulled together in such a way where I can actually handle this display stand. Clearly, it is very sturdy. I really love this. If you've got the display case space, then you are gonna have an absolute blast either pairing good guys together or having them square up against their favorite nemesis. All right, so now hopefully you know everything you needed to know about the GokinPlus Archi stands. If you didn't learn everything, leave me a comment. Ask me some questions. I'm happy to help you. A couple more toys on display here. They cover pretty much all your Macross needs at the moment. If you've got a non-Macross toy and you really want them to support that toy, send them a note. Say, hey, there's a bunch of us out here who need a display stand adapter for this toy. Maybe they can work something out for you. If you're shopping for these on GokinPlus.com and they appear to be sold out, they do replenish their stock pretty frequently, so just keep checking back in with them. And keep checking back in with me. Subscribe. I got lots of content coming up. Thanks for watching, everybody.